morning.
Good morning.
Happy Father's Day to all the fathers out there, and sending apologies to anyone who's missing a dad or missing a child on these days, because I know kind of makes these days suck a little bit. So it's been a bit. Welcome back to Morning Coffee. My voice is already going. Excuse me. Yeah. So it's been a little bit, and I actually just realized, because David told me that I didn't post any of these ahead of time that are upcoming. And I realized when I went into StreamYard this morning that Facebook, for some reason, didn't schedule. So I had to quickly go into Facebook and schedule to go live, because for some reason it did not automatically schedule it. So I do have a bunch of upcoming shows, and I will try to make sure that they show up on Facebook. So if you watch from Facebook, I'm sorry you didn't have any advance notice, but we're here. We are here for Father's Day morning coffee with my special guest. And I should just make you a co-host because you're here so often. David Miller, Libby's dad, is with me as per usual. Although it's been a bit since you've been here as well.
It's been a bit since you've done a show.
I know, because I took a little break. I had a lot going on, had book stuff going on, and I had my end of the year for teaching, which is always crazy and busy. And then I also we had the Live Like Libby Bingo, which is the biggest event that we do for our daughter's charity, Live Like Libby. So that is a bunch of work and always kind of a mad scramble at the end. So yeah, it's been a little bit. So Thanks for allowing me the break, and hopefully people will come back and keep watching, even though I haven't been here for a couple of weeks. I do have some good people coming up though for interviews. So
that's good.
Yeah. All right. If you have any comments, if you are joining us live and you have any questions for David or myself, please feel free to put them into the chat and we will answer them for you. If you're watching in the replay, welcome to the replay. And you can always leave questions in the comments and I will get back to those when I can. So, all right. Is that enough intro stuff? Let's just get into it.
Yeah.
All right. So we had a couple of things we were going to talk about. What do we want to start with?
Start with the positive. Bingo.
All right. Starting positive. I like it. Okay. So like we said, we had our annual Live Like Libby bingo event. And this year we did a little bit differently. We had it on, geez Louise, you might have to talk to me. It's been a bit. Now my voice is gone. We had it on June 2nd, which is Libby's birthday. And we thought that would be a good idea. We just kind of like the idea of it being on her birthday and doing something positive on her birthday to kind of just distract us and I guess just honor her on her day by doing something that she would have enjoyed. But it ended up not being a good date, we realized, because in June, everyone else is going through the same craziness that I was going through with school. And when you have little kids, it's 10,000 times worse. So there were a ton of people that couldn't come because they were either on vacation or they were doing, tons of people had sports stuff like big tournaments and that kind of stuff. So the date we will probably shift back to February next year, right? If I had to guess, we'll figure something out, but we figured, early June, everyone else is just as overwhelmed as I was. So it was a little much and the turnout isn't quite what we were hoping, but yeah.
I mean, at the end of the day, I think we ended up, definitely less than what we had last year, but the venue was a lot different this year, much bigger, a lot more space for everybody to really kind of spread out and enjoy. We actually called the bingo, which was
that was different,
kind of new and fun and kind of definitely in the action, but we raised, when everything was all said and done, around $6,700 for scholarships to go towards scholarships. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And I think people had fun.
Yeah, I think it ran really well. The event itself went well. Even though we had fewer people, we still did well. And I feel like it was organized and you learn stuff every year that you would change and do differently. So this is only the second year we've done it. We'll learn as we grow, but yeah, it was a positive. It's such, it definitely makes you feel good doing something, you know, in Libby's name and in her honor, and supporting something that I know she would support herself. So,
yeah. And it was good to see everyone too. I mean, it's as hard as it is sometimes to see, especially the dancers. They, you know, it's hard to see them. It's great to see them, but it's also hard at the same time, because your mind just goes to, what would Libby be? What would Libby be acting like doing?
Yeah, what would she
What's
look
her personality?
like?
What does she look like? You know, it just, and it's hard not to want to hug every single one of those girls and just, you know, and creepy dad.
You don't
like, hey,
you don't want to be that creepy guy. Like, can I hug your 13-year-old daughter?
Yeah, like there's so many times that it's just like, you know, when I see especially certain girls that you know, were really, really close to Libby, like it's hard. It's hard to
it's hard watching them grow up,
yes,
and Libby not being able to.
And Libby's kind of quasi in our minds stuck at that age,
stuck at 10.
And the girls are just, you know, just keep growing and getting bigger, and, you know, turning into young women, and you know, even some of the older kids that she danced with, Taylor and stuff like that, like 2-time national championship.
Yeah,
you know,
awesome
for dance.
Awesome, Taylor.
But you know, it is hard. It's hard to see that, but at the same time, it was nothing but love happening, I think, for Libby, and talking about Libby and remembering Libby and honoring Libby.
Yes, and I see your questions. I will get to them in just a second. The most amazing thing happened, and we knew it was going to happen. We had kind of prepared ourselves. The people who did it prepared us ahead of time, so we wouldn't like totally break down. But Libby's one of her best friends and her old daycare teacher and the families from the daycare that Libby used to go to actually surprised us and there's a new park in Lidditz where we lived with Libs and where she danced and went to school and everything. And they have an area of the park that's dedicated to Libby. So there's now a bench and it has a plaque, and there's planters there, and it's going to turn into a whole new place that people in Lidditz can go to remember Libby and honor her. And this coming Friday, we have like a special ceremony, a dedication of the park, and people from the township are coming to make it official. And yeah, it's just amazing. I love the fact that so many people still like want a place to go and remember her and just sit and think about her. And I love that it's at a playground, which is a place of fun and happiness. And yeah, it just meant so much. And they solved a problem that we had already been thinking about, because the intersection where Libby died, they're going to be one super dangerous intersection, and young kids were going there to see the memorial there, and it's dangerous. There are trucks whizzing by there all the time, and it's scary for us standing there, let alone, you know, kids in middle school. So I'm really glad that they have another place to go now that is much safer for them. And also that memorial, because they are fixing that intersection to make it more safe now, finally. That stuff needs to be moved while they do that construction. So solving lots of problems in a super awesome way. And yeah, we're just so touched that they did that. So, okay, I'm going to get to some of these comments quick before I forget them. Okay. Rachel says, good morning to two of my favorite people. Do you ever feel like you're not supposed to be happy because of your loss?
Every day.
Yes. All the freaking time. I actually, when I was on vacation, I recorded a video about this and then realized that my microphone had shut off halfway through the recording. So I have to re-record it. But yeah, I just made a video because I was on vacation with the boys at my brother's wedding, and it was such a mix of like, I wanted to be happy with the boys. And I was having these moments because I got, rarely do I ever get to spend a ton of time with them, like just the three of us. And I kept stopping and wanting to like enjoy it and realize I was in the moment, with my sons. But there was always that undercurrent of like, Libby isn't here. And it just never goes away. And we had fun. We had so much fun. We played mini golf and like did all kinds of stuff together. But there's just that, and when I did start having fun, it was like, oh, is it wrong to have fun when Libby's not here? And I kept having to like, want to like smack myself and just be like, enjoy your children that are here. And I tried to do that as best I could. But yeah, it's always tinged with that feeling of like, oh, like, am I supposed to be feeling joy? Yeah,
I'm the same way. Like when we're, enjoying family moment or something like that, whether it's playing Dungeons and Dragons with the boys or whatever it is that we're doing with the boys. Yeah, it's always kind of crawling in the back of your head of it's all good. We love spending the time with the boys, but it was a completely different dynamic with Libby.
Yeah.
She added so much energy and laughter to everything. And not that we don't have fun and laugh, but it was just very different with, again, partly because she was so much younger than the boys too. So now it's
like two adult children.
It's much more adulty.
Yes.
Yeah.
And but I think about it though, even though she would be 13 now, which is just mind-boggling, she still, like you said, she had that energy and that like silliness, and there was just so much laughter, when she was there, that I think even though she would also be getting older and be out of that like little kid phase, I feel like, the dynamic, she was just fun. You all right? Already. Sorry. What was it about that got you? It's okay. Do you want me to talk?
It was just 13. Sucks.
Yeah, it does suck. Okay, I'll give you a moment here to collect yourself, and I'll go through some of these. Emma says, hi, Miss Carlock. Hi, Emma. Emma's one of my students, so. And she also says, love the glasses. Thank you. You're right. Can I do anything for you?
No,
okay,
good.
I'll just keep I'll keep going. Emma, thank you. The glasses are camouflaging my super dark microbladed eyebrows that have not healed yet. When I get them microbladed every year, and then for the next week, I like hibernate so that no one sees me, because they get crazy dark and then they like flake off. But then I don't have to do my eyebrows for the rest of the year, which is amazing. So yeah, that's why the glasses today. All right. You ready for another question?
Sure.
Okay. So Rachel again says, also, my husband described our son's loss as a wound. Libby's dead. Do you ever feel that way? 100%. I can actually use a story. Oh, no, wait, hold on. In case, just to make sure I'm understanding this. My husband describes our son's loss as a wound. Libby's dad. Do you ever feel that way? Okay, so are you okay to take this one? I can throw my 2 cents in then, but since it's directed at you for Father's Day.
It's an open wound all the time. More so in my chest, kind of like you just feel this ache, this constant just loss. It's there's a hole, and yeah, it's obviously I can't even hear the word 13. That sends me off ledge. Yeah, it's the simple things like something like that. The 13, it just makes you realize that, you know, this isn't going away.
Mm-hmm.
It's constant. And you have good days, you have bad days. You know, Brooke had a real bad moment last night with, again, something that just triggered her. And it's definitely an open wound all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. So my moment last night, I was coming back to my tiny house, and people at the tiny house behind me, it's like an older couple. And I think that I'm assuming it's their son and granddaughter are staying there with them right now. And I saw them earlier, so I knew kind of the dynamic that was going on, but I saw the little girl, and she's little. But when I was coming home last night, it was dark, and I heard the little girl crying inside their house. And it was like a good cry. It was when, like, you know, a little kid has like, or they're really upset about something and have like a really good cry. And for some reason, that just hearing that little girl crying triggered me so badly. It was like, I don't know, I was trying to explain it to David, but it was like this montage of times that Libby was doing that like sobbing cry, which was not a lot, because she was not like, she was such a happy kid. Like, so if she was crying, there was a reason she was crying, although she was a wuss with like,
it was mostly injuries.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just hilarious because one of my memories that just popped up on, you know, Google Photos or something was when she wrecked her bike on a rail trail, and
yeah,
I took a video of her just bawling her eyes out, trying to get her to calm down.
Yeah, so she did, like, when she physically got hurt, she would cry. And it, like I said, it was just from the time she was teeny tiny until she was older, like all these memories just boom, 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 like picturing her crying like that. And then right after that happened, my mind went straight to the accident and me wondering, because I wanted to, like, my gut, and I wanted to comfort that little girl. Like, I wanted to have Libby again in my arms, like I would do when I was mom and she was crying like that, and she'd run to you and hug you, and it was like that, oh, like, you know, mommy trying to make it better. And it was just this awful ache to want to do that. And then wondering if, when she was hit by the truck, if she cried, and if she cried like that. And I just sobbed. I just came in my house and sobbed. And it was within a matter of seconds that all of that happened. And I don't even know how to explain it other than, like, it was like when people say your life flashes before your eyes, that was what it felt like, except with memories of Lib's crying, and then just the wondering, like the not knowing what she experienced. And when you talk about a wound, it was like somebody just slices open your stomach or like just slices your chest open and rips your heart out and like grips it. I don't know how it was physically painful and instant and awful. And so, yes, the wound, like, you always carry that wound. And man, those triggers that get you like that, I always say, are the worst. Like today, Father's Day, which we'll talk about, like, Father's Day sucks. Mother's Day sucks, but you know it's going to suck. Like stuff like that you're not expecting to happen, and you just are walking into your house. Those for me are the worst, because you have no preparation. It's just that constant, those constant reminders. Like, and I'm going to talk about this in the video I'm going to make about the vacation, but when I was at the beach with the boys, staying in the house next to us, there was a group of girls that looked around Libby's age, and I could not be anywhere where they were. We were going to have a beach day, and I walked to the beach, and I saw, like, Max was with me. We walked, we put our chairs out, we sat down, and these girls were running around laughing and screaming and like running in and out of the water. And I just looked over at Max and I was like, I can't do this. I can't sit here and pretend to enjoy myself all day looking at these little girls when it's like a knife stabbing me. Excuse me. And he looked over at me because he saw them too. And he was just like, I get it. Like let's go. And I was so grateful. He's so understanding like that. But he's like, yeah, I totally get it. And he was thinking the same thing because it's impossible not to watch little girls with long hair running around laughing and not wish that Libby could do the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about it before, but I have a group of girls right around Libby's age, right near my house.
Yeah.
And I live right across from a park, and I see them constantly going by, and it's hard. And you just, not that you don't love your nieces, but you just had that, yesterday babysitting your nieces. It's the same thing. You want to spend time, but it is hard. And it's the same thing at the bingo. I want to see the girls. I want to see the dancers. They were such an important part of Libby's life. But it is hard to see them and to watch them grow up and be 13, and she can't.
Yeah. Ugh, agreed. Okay. Tonette says, good to see you guys. Sending love. It's a hard day. Yes. Thank you. It is. All right. AMD 137. I'm at work, but when I jump into a live and say hello, sending love to you both. Oh, I'm glad you finally made it for at least a little bit of a I'm always here like I know you're always saying you're at work when they're on. So glad you could make it for a second, and hello back to you. Hopefully you'll get to watch the replay and see us saying hello. And thank you for being such a big supporter of everything I do. Thank you, Libby's dad. Don't feel so alone. So Rachel, the one who had asked us the question, it helps so much to not feel so alone in all this. That is so true. Yeah. Rachel, yeah, feeling alone is such a... Have you noticed though, this is not something I was planning on talking about, but that just kind of reminded me, man, you don't realize how many people have lost children until you lose a child. And yeah, it is comforting. People tell me that all the time with me sharing my story, like, thank you for talking about it, because, it is helpful to know you're not alone and that what you're feeling isn't crazy and that it is normal and that it is okay. Yeah, and I understand that, but sometimes it's overwhelming, like how many people there are, and your heart just breaks. Like, oh,
there's so many stories. And I was looking back through some of your videos and reading some of the comments, of stuff, and yeah, there's so many of us out there, and it's the worst loss imaginable. Yeah. And we're not alone, and we need to normalize talking about it, and being open about it.
Yeah. So thank you for commenting too. I tell people in my videos, every time somebody comments, like, it's so helpful for other people to see your comments, because then they know, again, same thing, they're not alone. Patty says, these days are hard. Big hugs. Thanks. Yeah, Patty, back at you. Even though it's Father's Day, I wish they didn't get it. Yep. I know. I wish none of us got it. Yep. Honestly.
Yeah.
Ugh. All right. So, Father's Day.
Yeah.
So this is supposed to be about you. And it's a little bit about me because I lost my dad.
Yeah.
And that part is weird for me, but like you just said, like nothing is the same.
It overshadows everything, I think. And again, I don't want to, that's terrible to say, but because I think we've said it before, loss is all about the relationship you had with the individual. So for us to say that, child loss is the worst, people that don't have children, but have that are super close with their parents, and they lost that parent, it could very well be very similar to losing a child. But for us, there's there's just nothing that compares. I've lost, luckily I have not lost, any siblings or anything like you have, but yeah, I can't imagine anything being any worse for me personally. But Father's Day is tough. Yesterday, the boys are both out of town visiting friends and significant others, and so it's been kind of a quiet house by myself, and that is not good for me. When I'm alone in the house, and it just, I could feel myself being on the verge yesterday of just breaking down. I don't even know what I was doing. I don't remember what I was doing prior to that, but I was listening to something, and somebody said something, and I was letting the dog out, and I'm about to cry because I could feel the emotion was all right there, and probably, my little breakdown right there just needed to come out, kind of thing. And I've just kind of felt like I've been on the verge of having a breakdown.
So is it specifically because it's Father's Day, or just in general, like you don't like being?
I think it's not. Father's Day for me was one of those things. It's hard from a Libby standpoint because Libby, the boys are older, so Libby was the only one, towards the end, especially after we got divorced. Libby was the only one that really cared to give me a Father's Day card and write stuff and make sure that I got a present. And so it's hard from that standpoint. Not that I missed the presents, but just that, knowing how much she enjoyed finding that present and giving me the present and the card, and she would make it a big deal.
Yeah.
Not that I needed it to be a big deal, but she would make it a big deal. So I miss it from that standpoint, from Libby's standpoint. But
same with Mother's Day.
Yeah.
But the boys just
yeah, I mean,
we are doing something for you tomorrow, by the way, tomorrow night when they're both back. But yes, like even organizing that, they're just like, what? It's Father's Day?
Yeah.
It's the same with Mother's Day. Like they just, it
Yeah,
does not compute.
I sent them a text like a week before Mother's Day to say, hey, just so you're aware, it's Mother's Day this weekend.
Yeah.
Whether that's their age or whether it's the boys, mentality that it's not a big deal, whatever it is. But Libby always did go out of her way. She loved, she was like us, and that we enjoyed giving gifts more than receiving gifts. So that was what she loved doing. And my last thing that I got from her was a t-shirt that was best farter ever instead of father. So that's it's one of those things that I do miss, just that little bit of joy that she got from that. But being alone in the house is something that I think I struggle with entirely. It's just a very lonely feeling. And also knowing that, if Libby were alive, she'd potentially be there with me, and I have this house, and the whole idea after the divorce was to get a house of our own where we could all just kind of, go. And she's not there to enjoy it, and it sucks. And I'm finding myself, because I have my own house now, I tend to stay in my house. I'm not out and active nearly as much as I used to be, especially when Libby was around. And I could tell you right now that if I had that house with Libby, we would be out walking the trail all the time, or riding our bikes down on the trail, going kayaking down on the river that's right beside. We'd be doing stuff. And I'm not doing any of that stuff, and I know it's bad, but I got to get out of it. So, Father's Day.
Oh yeah. Patty says, my son always sent meaningful texts and posts. I miss getting them. Oh, Patty, that's so nice. Okay, so maybe it's not a boy thing. I don't know. Maybe it's just our boys. But I mean, they do so. Like Mother's Day was great, We did the whole Gettysburg thing. So here's a question for you. Like, the way that I got through Mother's Day, and I think I talked about this in like a Mother's Day episode, I really have to tell myself to want to celebrate it for the kids that are still here. Like I made a conscious effort, I would say, this year that instead of like having a pity party for myself and feeling like the day was going to be terrible, it was like and I do have to remind myself sometimes, I guess because Libby was so young still and the boys were older, but like I am still a mother, you know, you are still a father. And I feel like sometimes it's hard, like when you lose a child, it's almost like you lose that because you're just thinking, I no longer have that child. But if you still have other children, like you are still a parent. And I didn't want to ruin that for them. You know,
and I guess I look at it differently. Like, you know, the day is about you. You know, Mother's Day and Father's Day. So it's meant to be about you, not about the kids per se. You know, it's them celebrating us.
Yeah,
that's what it's supposed to be.
But you know what I mean? If the boys, like if I just said, no, I want to stay in my tiny house and cry all day and not do anything for Mother's Day, like I feel like that would make them be like, oh, what are we? Chop liver, like like you're still our mom.
I see it from that standpoint, but know too that if you ever, you know, would say that to them, they're like, no, we're going out and doing something.
Well, no, I know.
They're obviously gonna not let you do that, but yeah, I mean, I kind of get what you're saying, but I guess for me personally, again, Father's Day, the biggest thing for me was the joy that Libby had, kind of doing her little thing and kind of making it all about me, you know, but I don't have that anymore. And it's, that's the loss for Father's Day for me personally. But
you're forgetting those 50 billion years that I made you chocolate cherry cakes and everything else for Father's Day.
You're not there anymore. So I'm not getting that. So
he was just Libby. And who do you think searched Amazon for all of those funny t-shirts that you
What have you done for me lately? Come on.
Oh, whatever.
No, I always appreciated Father's Day. It was different when the kids were younger. I guess that's my point. Like, because Libby still cared, Libby would make her own cards, that kind of stuff, or, you know, press to go out and get a card, that kind of stuff. That's, I guess, what I miss. You know, is the effort put in and the joy of wanting to do that, which the boys don't have, and it's not a huge deal. It's just, it doesn't bother me that they're not like, hey, Dad, it's all about you. Let's go. You know, it doesn't bother me. It's just that's the loss that we have from Libby.
Makes sense. Along those lines, Courtney says, "Happy Father's Day."
Thank you.
So yeah. All right. Does anyone else have any questions or anything you want to ask? I'm trying to think if I had anything else to.
How are you doing?
How am I doing?
How is this affecting you with, like you said, with your dad's loss? You know?
It's kind of like you said. I mean, Father's Day for me with my dad, because my parents were divorced and I didn't live with him, and because my mom certainly wasn't taking us out to buy Father's Day gifts or anything like that. No. So it was kind of, Father's Day was usually like a message or a phone call just to say Happy Father's Day. And then once I was old enough to do my own thing with my own money, it usually turned into like going out to dinner or whatever. Like when we were married, it was, okay, we'll do something with your dad, do something with my dad, and you figured out who could do what on what day, and like you'd have your requisite visit for Father's Day, and that was kind of it. So it brings up, yes, a reminder that I don't have my dad, and that is sad. But like you said, Father's Day for Libby, Libby's loss eclipses everything else. And there's no other way to explain it. So Father's Day for me now is about making sure you're okay. like planning something for you. Like, even though we're not married anymore, it's making sure the boys are recognizing that it's Father's Day and planning something with them so that you get to spend time with them and wondering if you're okay because it's Father's Day and we lost Libby. So yeah, it's kind of it's a different dynamic. It's like on Mother's Day, I lost my mom. I no longer have my mom, but on Mother's Day, I was thinking about Libby. Like it just is kind of what happens. Like we described, it's always that open wound. It's not something that ever goes away. I mean, it gets a little bit easier, but it's always there.
Right.
Which is what I was trying to explain to my brother. Oh, so I'll tell you about I was saving this.
Live reaction, people.
Yeah, this will be a live reaction.
I swear.
So my brother, I've talked about my brother. I have 3 brothers, but the one that tells me that I need to get over it a lot. So yeah, we were on the phone and it started out a nice conversation because he called me just to see how I was doing, which is super nice. And like, we check in with each other and we have a good relationship. I will preface it by saying that, but emotions are not his thing. He does not do well with emotions at all. So he was asking how I was doing. I was telling him about my trip to New York. Oh, why were you in New York? I was doing research for the new book series that I'm writing. And he's like, oh, it's a new book. Oh, well, first he was like, oh God. And I'm like, what? He's like, you're writing another book? I'm like, yeah. And he automatically assumed that it was a grief book. And I was like, this one's not about grief. And he was like, oh, good. Like, it's not about grief. And he was like, oh, I'm glad you're writing. Like, that's really cool. What's this one about? And I'm like, well, and I knew where it was going. I'm like, well, this one's a historical fiction series and it's, set in New York. So I was exploring the history and whatever. He's like, oh, that's cool, whatever. And then eventually it came up. I was like, yeah, it's called Libby's Frontier. And he's like, what? I'm like, yeah. Like, Libby's the main character and it's kind of based on how we watched Little House on the Prairie together and her love of Hamilton and everything. And he just went off. And he's like, why are you doing that? And I'm like, what do you mean, why am I doing that? Why are you making her a character? And I'm like, it's how I got the idea for the story. Like, it's honoring her. And he's like, that's stupid. He's like, you got to stop this. And I'm like, stop what? He's like, you're talking about grief all the time. He's like, it's all you ever talk about. And I'm like, it's really not all I ever talk about. Like, I feel like for someone who's lost a child, I'm functioning very well. Thank you. And like, he just does not, like, he was so annoyed. And he's like, well, write this one if you have to, but when you're done with this one, you need to do something that's not about Libby. And I'm like, dude, you don't get it. Like, everything is about, like, everything will always be about Libby. And it's not like, I guess it would be different. Or he might have a right to say something if, 3 years out here, I'm like, well, not 3.
Curled up into a ball.
Yes, if I'm curled up on my sofa or curled up in my bed and I'm just sobbing and I'm hiding from the world and I'm not doing anything with my life and, avoiding reality and whatever, you know what I mean? Like, if I'm not functioning, say maybe you need to, maybe it's time to get some help or maybe it's time to get out of your house or whatever. But like, I don't know. Is it like, it's just him, right? It's just him. Like, and that's what I tried to tell him. I'm like, I'm not going to stop talking about Libby ever. She will never stop being my daughter. Like, he gets upset when I bring her up. If I mention her name or if I say, oh, Libby would have loved this or, oh, Libby loved that. He's like, oh God. Oh, why do you have to bring her up? I'm like, because she was my daughter. Like, she was here. She would have liked this. It's not like she's gone and I'm just going to forget her and pretend like she didn't exist. And he doesn't understand that that's a healthy way to deal with grief.
Yeah.
Is if you acknowledge the loss and you honor that person and you take them with you and still talk about them and remember them and whatever. And you can do that without curling up into a ball and not having a life, that's healthy. That's good.
Well, what was that movie that we watched? The fishing movie, hit something the line.
Oh yeah, I forget the title.
But that movie is a good example. Like the woman in that, you know, he's an older, so he's probably, you know, he's out of high school or just out of high school and was engaged to be married and everything else, or was he married? I forget. But he dies, and the mom is just sits on her sofa watching old football videos, and every time the ex-wife, or not the widowed wife or the fiance, whatever it was, would come over, she'd try and make her deal with it in the same way. Like, just sit here and immerse yourself 100%
yeah, like watch
into,
these movies constantly.
Don't do anything, sit on your sofa, look like you're crazy, you know, that kind of thing. Like you said, that is an unhealthy way to deal with grief. And I think, like you said, writing the book, talking about it, doing this kind of stuff is a healthy way to get it out and discuss it and help other people that are going through the same thing. I mean, it's not a bad thing. And, you know, again, no offense to Colin, but and he did lose his wife. Let's be very honest. He lost his wife, young age, 30 something. Mm-hmm. So he's gone through a significant loss. But he is a very different animal than we are and how we deal with things.
Well, he like even with his he doesn't talk about her. He didn't want to keep her urn with her ashes. He got rid of their wedding photo. Like there are no pictures up or anything. He's very like, she's gone, let's push it down. So, but that's what I told him, because at this point, like, everybody's like, why do you still talk to him? He's still my brother. He has a very, I don't know the word for he a very boisterous, opinionated personality with no filter, and has very strong opinions about things and doesn't hesitate to tell you what he thinks. He's definitely an acquired taste, and it's just how he is. So I love him. He's my brother, but I know that there are things that I cannot say to him. And I'm getting much better, because like, I wasn't just like, okay, I'll stop writing about Libby. Thanks for the suggestion. I was like, you don't get it. Like, I was like, I actually enjoy it. I am enjoying writing these books. And it's like, when you lose a child, then you understand. Like, maybe you'll figure it out. Maybe he'd be different. I don't know. But this is how I'm dealing with it. And I said to him, I'm not going to stop talking about my daughter because it makes you uncomfortable.
Right.
And that's 100% what it is. He doesn't want me to talk about Libby and do stuff that honors Libby because it makes him feel uncomfortable and makes him feel sad. Right. And he loved that little girl.
Yeah.
He adored her. But it's easier for him to just pretend like it didn't happen. And yeah,
it's just a different.
I'm just like, whatever.
It's a different way, and it's, you know, honestly, it's a fairly unhealthy way to deal with it. But you know, people have to come around to their own decision how they're going to deal with it. But yeah.
Truth. All right, we have another comment. I'm like you, Brooke. I've lost a mother, dad, and all my siblings except one, but there's just something different about losing a child. Totally different. Yeah, it is totally different. Mm-hmm. Like I said, I hate saying that because there's always the people who have lost people really close to them that aren't a child, and they are devastated. And I don't want people to feel like they don't have a right to be, or like my loss is worse than yours. So much of it is about the relationship, but
I struggled with that actually early on in our loss. I was really struggling even with other child loss, like parents who lost their children in their 40s and stuff like that. I'm like, well, you got 40 years. I got 10, you know, and parents who, you know, lost their child, you know, infancy or stillborn or something like that. Like you didn't even really get to know. Like, it's such I had a moment when we were in a counseling session to realize at that moment that you know, the loss is very personal, regardless of what it was. And the one that really stands out to me was the guy who was running the group actually said, you know, I realized he had lost his infant child. And I'm like, he said, you know, all of the hopes, all of the dreams, all of the things, and it was their first child, would have been their first child. Everything that as a parent you dream about when you're going to have a child, and all the things, you know, like that I'm going to miss: Libby graduating high school, boyfriends, marriage, kids, all of that stuff. I'm going to miss out on all that. And that's kind of how he explained it. It was like, yeah, I didn't know this child. They didn't develop a personality. I didn't, you know, all that stuff, but all the dreams and the hope that we had for this child was still there. And that's very much, again, it comes back to, it's just relationships that you have with the people you've lost. Whether that's just a dreaming relationship for somebody that, you know, is thinking about that, you know, when they lose an infant, or, you know, the potential for somebody that's much older and the things that they could have done or should have done, or the people they're leaving behind. Because, you know, typically a lot of times when you're losing an older child, there's kids involved, you know, the kids and grandkids that have lost their dad and or mom, and that's a whole different awful.
Yeah. All right. Rachel says, I absolutely love talking about my son to anyone who will listen. It just warms my heart. Same.
Yeah,
absolutely the same. I love talking about libs. All loss is very devastating. I guess I just meant it as a different. Yes.
Absolutely.
Agreed.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's.
We're not minimizing.
No, not at all.
Child loss.
Because I keep saying it, but the relationship you had with your person is it's different from, you know, even Brooke and I, we've talked about our own loss of Libby and how very different it is because of our experiences and the things that we did with Libby individually. So yeah, it's incredibly hard no matter what, but
keep talking about him,
yes.
Rachel. I will never stop talking about Libby. Yeah. And I think there are very few people like my brother that, I mean, I hope anyway, that will look at me and be like, why is she still talking about it? I mean, yeah, it's not something you ever get over. Do you keep functioning? Sure. Do you move forward? Sure. Do you move on or get over it? No, because it's always going to be there. Because they lived, they were here, and we love them, and that doesn't just go away.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, boo. Just ignore the people that tell you that you should get over it. Because
hopefully you're not. Hopefully there's not too many people out there that are getting that. So
yeah.
But
anyway.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else? We're almost at 50 minutes. Time flies.
Yeah.
Time flies when you're having fun.
I think so.
All right. I think that is all of the questions. So yeah, I guess we will wrap up. If you're watching from Facebook, like I said, I will try to post the upcoming videos so you can see them. Sorry that today's wasn't posted ahead of time. And again, you can always catch them on YouTube, on my YouTube channel, on the replay. And I think that's pretty much it.
Happy Father's Day to all the fathers out there.
Happy Father's Day. We are sending love to anyone that is. To
be fair, we're sending love to all the dads.
Yes.
Especially to the dads that have lost.
Yes. And if you haven't lost anyone, appreciate the people that you have.
Yeah.
Give dads an extra hug and give your kids an extra hug today. Because these days are rough. All right.
All right.
Thanks for being here. Only one little meltdown today.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right?
So far. So.
It's good. I love that people see you being emotional.
Yeah. I mean,
it's good. It's healthy.
Yeah. We've talked about it before, you know, to the men out there. I think it's healthy to show everyone that it's okay to be emotional and to not have to feel like you're the strongest person in the world and that you have to carry the whole world on your shoulders. We feel just as much as anybody else. Society just says that we have to be manly and not show that emotion, and it's total bullshit. So, yeah, but I also think it's healthy to show your kids that,
Yeah,
you know, that,
agreed.
you know, fortunately my boys have seen me cry all the damn time. So I hope they understand that, even though Grayson still pushes his down to his toes, but I think they hopefully understand that letting that out, showing that emotion is important.
Agreed.
Regardless. So
agreed. Well, thanks for being a good example.
No.
All right. Have a good day, everyone. Have a good week. I will be back. I can't remember if it's next week or the week after that, but I will post it and keep you guys posted. And thanks for watching and or listening. And we'll see you next time.
See you later.
Bye.